Looky-loo, another wonderful WrestleRoni from me and for you. Joining us today, the godfather of the industry, the Carolina Classic himself, Sean Cruz. How we feeling, my man?
Man, I couldn't be any better if I tried. How about you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I got you on the show. Finally got Sean Cruz on the Roni. I think it's a good day.
I agree.
Glad to have you, my man. Honest to goodness, I've been a fan of your work for the past few years. The first time I saw you live, I was recording at PWL. It was either a multi-man match or a six-man tag, and you stuck out from the crowd to me. I said, this guy is a pro wrestler if there ever was one. What's going on right now in Sean Cruz's career?
Oh, man. Let's see. This weekend, I've got SOM, School of Morton, place that's very near and dear to my heart. It's the second home, basically. We're doing an outside event in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and I'm in the main event. I mean, of course I'm in the main event. I'm Sean Cruz. I'm the godfather, right?
Right.
Got to show these young kids how to do it. But it's myself and Hunter Wolf. This kid's like 7 foot tall. I mean, just a monster.
Mm-hmm.
We brought him in a few months ago into the industry, which of course is my group, my stable, my family, as we call it, which consists of myself, Hunter Wolf, Sam Street, and Maya Ferrari. So it's Hunter Wolf and myself against RT3 and Blade Gibson, two of the top, rah cheerleader, good guys at SOM. So that one should be good. Oh, and I probably should mention Buff Bagwell is going to be in their corner as well.
Oh, they got Buff in their corner.
Yeah, that Buff still thinks he's the stuff, but the industry is going to show him who the stuff really is. See, I got a bone to pick with Buff Bagwell. Earlier this year, myself and my North Carolina tag partner, Chet Sterling, we took on the Dawson brothers, which if you know North Carolina wrestling in the last 15, 20 years, you know the Dawson brothers.
For sure.
Right. So, and then they decided to bring Buff Bagwell with them when we had my longtime friend and former wrestler himself, Daniel Messina, who was Tainted Love. Daniel Messina was in our corner. Of course, Buff decided, to get involved. We pulled out the victory, obviously, but then the Dawsons, in usual cowardly fashion, attacked us afterwards. Buff Bagwell spray painted NWO on our backs, made a mockery of us. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen in Hendersonville. I know Buff's had knee surgery or something. His AARP card is up for renewal, something like that. But he needs to stay out of the industry's way. And most importantly, he needs to stay out of my way.
Maybe it's time for you to spray paint Buff this time around.
That's what? That is a genius idea, and I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and you can even make it, with your own term. You won't get sued if you spray paint 3 certain letters. You don't have to worry about no lawsuits coming down the pike. You'll be in good shape.
Nope. Yep, that's a great idea.
Okay, glad to help. I've never been a Buff Bagwell fan, so it is what it is. You mentioned School of Morton. I'm a huge Ricky Morton fan. What's been going on the past year or so down at School of Morton?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I'm saying this, and I've been in a lot of locker rooms, but the locker room that School of Morton has now is by far the best I've ever been in. I mean, top to bottom, you've got veterans, you've got up-and-comers, you've got established NWA stars. It's something for everybody, and we've got a new building as well. About to launch that in Newport, Tennessee in October, I believe. Yeah, end of October. No, sorry, November. 1st of November. Okay, and we're going to be running our weekly shows there. Yeah, a much bigger crowd than the other building, I think, could hold, which is going to be good. And the industry and, more importantly, myself have got some really good things planned for School of Morton.
Heck yeah. I've been a fan of School of Morton for the past few years, even more so because I met a young man named Evan Golden.
Oh, Evan Golden.
What can you tell me about Evan Golden?
Well, what can I tell you about Evan Golden that he hasn't told you about himself?
Right.
I will give you this little tidbit. He loves the white pineapple monster, what they call Reserve, I think.
Okay.
You ever get one of those, you'll be his best friend forever. Man, Evan is a great kid. He has a great attitude. He's talented. He's entertaining. I mean, he's collecting belts everywhere.
Yep.
I think he's got, what, 3 now or something. And I was on one show with him. He won the belt. I'm telling you, it was huge. The buckle is, I'm not kidding, like this big.
Wow.
Like, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but it's awesome. And he deserves it. Matter of fact, he beat RT3 that night. That's the guy that, is going to be in the match with us in Hendersonville. But, yeah, Evan Golden is a guy to keep your eye on. He's humble. He listens. He learns. He improves. And he's coachable. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
So I'm trying to recruit him into the industry. We've been talking, been taking him out, whining, dining, schmoozing him. And I think eventually he'll come around when he realizes how important it is to have a friend like me in the sport of professional wrestling. So we'll see.
Man, you guys get that kid. The power you'll have. I mean, you're already a powerful stable. You add Evan Golden to the mix, you're unstoppable.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And Sean, I like getting veterans like yourself on here. A lot of times when I get the new guys like an Evan Golden or some of these that, while they're respectful, they kind of watch what they say. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to rock the boat. I want you to know, feel free to rock all the boats you want while you're on here. I think you've earned your
Oh,
piece.
brother, how much time have you got? I could rock so many boats. No, honestly, man, I've learned my lesson of rocking boats throughout the years.
Okay, well, teach me. Let me know.
It's one of those things where no matter what you say, whose side you take in any kind of situation, you're always going to have people that come out against you, try to get you blacklisted or blackballed, which it doesn't exist, by the way. You can always find somewhere
right
to ply your craft.
Right.
I don't know, man. I take it like with politics and religion. Like, I think that's something that wrestlers, promoters, anybody in any kind of entertainment industry shouldn't discuss. Because if you take a stand one way or another, you're going to alienate one side of your fans.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have an opinion and you shouldn't voice your opinion if you feel led to do so. But, like, there's been a lot of drama in the Carolina indie scene the last, 2 or 3 weeks. It's just been absolutely ridiculous. And some of it warranted, outing some, like, pedophiles and things of that nature, and that's great.
Right.
But, like, a lot of this he said, she said, whatever, I stay out of it now. I've gotten my share of unnecessary heat in this business, enough to last a lifetime. I always joke with guys that want me to train them about, like, how to wrestle and things like that. I'm like, you'd be better off if I was training you on what you shouldn't do if you want to make it in this business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the things not to say, especially on social media. My God.
Yeah.
When I started, if we'd had social media, I don't think I would have made it as long as I have in this business.
Right.
I'll be honest. Because if it comes into my brain, I would say it.
Right.
And I think a lot of these guys are the same way. They just don't think. And especially the guys that get me the most, though, are the ones that criticize the big companies, WWE, AEW, NWA, TNA,
yep.
and then expect to get a job.
Exactly. Yep. We say it all the time on the show. You don't know
who's my mind.
Yeah. You don't know
who's watching. They watch
your social
media. If you go and you're saying anti-politics stuff or religion stuff, or you're doing stuff to cause issues or talking about men or women or this, like, they go way back on your social media when they're thinking about bringing you in for, like, a tryout or a look. And these kids don't understand that, man. Heck, some of these grown-ups don't understand it. It ain't just the kids.
I was going to say, it ain't just the kids. That's exactly.
No, but I will say this. Not everybody's trying to make it. Not everybody cares about, getting to one of those deals, getting a contract. I mean, you got guys like Matt Cardona that have shown you can make it even bigger outside of a contract. Of course, it helped the fact that he was Zack Ryder first and he was all over TV and people knew who he was. But still, there's other avenues.
Yeah.
To be able to make it now. It's not just about getting to WWE or even AEW or NWA. So I can't speak for everybody, but I just know me, like, there's so many things I see on social media and I could comment on it, or I could, and I just have to scroll, just keep scrolling. This doesn't have to do with me. I have a saying I like to do. It's not my monkeys, not my circus, but I sure know all the clowns.
There you go.
So that's how it is.
And I think a lot of the times that there's a lot of us, and I say us because I'm guilty of it, that are very, very passionate about pro wrestling. And we could be right, could be wrong. When it comes to religion, politics, okay, that's the way you were brought up or you think that way, but we're all in this pro wrestling thing together. So where's the line, you think?
Well, and it's like Dr. Tom Pritchard says about different flavors of ice cream. It's the same thing. You can't, like, I'm not a deathmatch guy, right?
Right.
I used to be like vehemently against deathmatch. Like, this is crap. You ain't got no talent. Like, I was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, at the end of the day, it's a business like anything else is. If it makes money, if it has a fan base, if there's people who love it and appreciate it, more power to them. I'm not going to tell them they can't do it.
Right.
You know, lucha style wrestling, intergender wrestling. That's another big one. You know, it's still the same thing. You got to watch what you say, especially in 2024. As bad as it sounds, you know, if you want to succeed in a business. If you don't care and you're just like, I'm doing this for fun and I'm going to be me and be authentic and say and do what I want, then you got the power to do that too. That's what's great about being an American citizen. You have the freedom of speech, the freedom to do those things.
That's a really good way of putting it. Well, you've been in the business for a while. When did you get in so we can kind of timeline things here?
2001.
2001. Wow, over 20 years. So you're definitely the guy to ask. Let's talk good before the bad. Tell me about some of the good changes you've seen, and then you can tell me about the bad as well. As far as the indie level, not on TV. We're all watching it on TV. You're right there in the war zone in the indies. What's going on?
The good, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the fans overall
Okay.
are better now to me than when I first got in the business. I don't know. They're more interactive. I think it's probably because of social media, and they have such easy access to the independent wrestlers, which can be a blessing and a curse.
Agreed.
That's one thing I'll say. If you're a fan out there watching this, like, don't be harassing wrestlers in their inboxes.
Right.
You know, don't cause relationship issues with them if you're a female and you're trying to message a male wrestler or whatever. Like, just don't. Just appreciate us for what we do, and, you know, see us at the show, get your picture, your autograph. I mean, there's too much access now.
Right.
You know, and then if you don't respond to that person or you block them, then it becomes a problem too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do. I get the messages, and I'm just a podcast guy, you know?
Yeah, I don't like that aspect of it. But as far as the fans that at the shows that, you know, come up to the table and they appreciate it, I think there's a lot now. See, I used to be one of those old school guys that was like, kayfabe this, kayfabe that. If you're a heel, you should be a heel, and you shouldn't sell merchandise and all that. Everybody's got to make their money. You know, I know back in the day, they paid the heels, the promoter did a little bit more money to sit in the back.
Uh-huh.
But they're not going to do that now.
Right.
So you got to make your money. So like the MJF, that whole thing, I'm not a fan of, you know, ripping up people's autographs and talking trash to kids. And like everybody knows it's a show at this point. I'm not breaking the wall. I'm not pulling the curtain back, right?
So my absolute TV.
Right. My absolute favorite wrestling fans in the world are the ones that come to the show when I'm a heel. They boo me. They curse at me. They flip me off. They understand their job to boo me. They understand my job is to piss them off.
Right.
But then when they come up to my table or they pass me when I'm walking, you know, out intermission or going to the bathroom, they'll stop and say, man, that was a hell of a match. That was a hell of a show.
Okay.
You did a great job. Uh-huh. And I'll give them a fist bump and be like, appreciate it, and keep walking. I don't stand there and man, oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And let me get a picture. No, I'm not going to go over the top if I'm a heel. But I will stop there and I will acknowledge you and I will say I appreciate that and keep it moving.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there's so many guys now, and it's still that old guard and the new guards trying to fight each other. That's the one thing I will say that has definitely changed a lot since I've been in indie wrestling, but it's still not where it needs to be. There's still too many really outdated ideas and concepts and things that just don't work anymore in today's wrestling world.
Agreed.
A lot of the bullying stuff, especially the locker room bullying, what's the word I'm looking for here? Hazing, I guess.
Yeah.
Ribbing somebody is one thing, But hazing and being overly disrespectful is a whole nother
Right on.
situation. And I've seen over the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've seen less and less and less and less of that. So that's a good thing.
Right.
But outside of that, I mean, there's a lot more places to work. I mean, that can be good and bad as well.
Right.
You know, there's a lot more promoters, I think, that get it right now than used to, if that makes any sense. You know, like they understand that it's a business. It's not just like, hey, I got this extra tax money back at tax time or whatever, and I'm going to put on a show.
Right.
No, just like so I worked for Square Circle Champions in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. This past Saturday, it was my first time there, and top-notch organization. I mean, everything. It was a packed house. The crowd was great. Promoter was great. Everybody behind the scenes was great. It's refreshing to be able to find a new place to work like that not only understands the way wrestling should be done and appreciates it and respects it, but they also appreciate you as a talent and what you bring to the table.
For sure.
That can be rare, unfortunately, especially in my state. I'll be honest, like, because we don't have a commission or whatever. You don't have to have a license or anything. So there's an awful lot of promotions in North Carolina.
West Virginia. I get it.
So yeah, West Virginia's the same way. You know, I've done my time there as well. Yeah, I will say this too. Now, West Virginia, for the most part, seems to work well together with other promotions as a whole.
Right. Yep.
More so than North Carolina does.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the one thing I wish we could change here. And there's been attempts, but it's too much greed, too many egos. I know how to do this. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, or it never works out.
I think that's why we're in a good place in West Virginia. You talk about that old guard versus the new guard. A lot of the old guards going away. A lot of these promoters almost came up in the same time frame, so there's some mutual respect there, at least from what I'm seeing things. And you talk about being treated well. That gives me a second. I want to give it up to Harrison County Recs and Park and Rec. It was our first show there this past Saturday. They treated us like rock stars. The venue did. The county people. Food, drinks. I mean, thank you, Harrison County. Beautiful relationship there. What are you seeing when you come to West Virginia? I see you in PWL and I believe APW dipped through there. What are you seeing when you're coming through West Virginia?
Yeah, I actually haven't been in West Virginia. God, it's been probably 2 or 3 months.
Really? Been that long already?
It's been a while. I think the last PWL show I worked was, I want to say it was the one we did at the skating rink, and it was me and Cyclops against Barbarian and Jeff Paul.
Okay, I was there for that one. Okay.
West Virginia show I worked, or I might have worked at APW TV taping after that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I always loved working at especially PWL. So I got a quick Jeff Paul story. So I didn't know. Well, I had met Jeff previously because I used to work for what was it, WVCW or
not WVWF, was it?
No, it was Cody Green.
Okay, around Beckley.
Yes, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So I worked for Cody, me and Roosevelt, Victor Andrews.
Okay.
And so I had met Jeff like when he first got in previously there, and then I stopped going to West Virginia, personal reasons at home, nothing to do with them. They always treated me great. Mm-hmm. And then Jeff, we did a NWA tryout at School of Morton, where Ricky was there, EC3 was there, and some of the NWA guys like AJ Kazana, Silas Mason. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, for his tryout match, wrestled a kid who was, I don't know if he was fully deaf, but I know he was really hard of hearing. So they basically had to do the whole thing off field.
Oh, okay.
And he put on a hell of a match. He made the kid look like $1 million. And it was crazy because there was 2 rings there. And we were told beforehand that it was going to be like a control your narrative / NWA thing. We were going to get like hands on this. Dude, I shit you not. There was like 80 or 90 workers that showed up.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It was and that building is tiny if you've
Right.
ever been to the old school of Morton in Chucky. And dude, I literally sat there for 5 hours before
Wow.
I got a chance to get in there and work. It was literally just matches, 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 matches. A quick little critique from Ricky and EC3, and Kerry was there too. But I didn't even get a chance to really speak to Jeff. So after we got home, I was just thinking about the whole experience, and I said, I'm gonna shoot that guy a message. Shot him a message on Facebook. I was like, hey man, I just really enjoyed your match. It was really cool the way you put that kid over and made him look whatever. And he's like, oh great, yeah, you should come work for me because he watched mine. Just so happens that weekend, I think that was a Thursday. That Sunday, they were running at the skating rink in Bluefield, and he had needed an opponent for Chase Stevens.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I worked Chase like 15 years ago when him and Andy Douglas were in TNA and they were the Naturals. They were TNA Tag Team Champions. They came to one of my home promotion shows and worked me and the guy who trained me, and we actually got a shot at the TNA Tag Team titles.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So especially I was like 5 years in the business or something, so I was like, heck yeah, that's great.
Right.
I was a lot skinnier then, and I had hair, and I was really tan. Yeah. So so I was like, yeah, I'll work with Chase. And so I went up there, me and Victor, he rode with me. We went up there and I had the match with Chase and it went great. And after that, me and Jeff just kind of hit it off and I started working for him and had a blast. Me and Aaron West had a really good feud there that culminated in a street fight at the skating rink, which is still one of my favorite things I've done in wrestling.
I saw some clips. That was brutal.
Dude, it was honestly, I've been hit with so much shit over the years and thrown through stuff and body slammed on concrete and thrown off bleachers. You know the one thing that hurts worse than anything that's ever happened to me? When he hit me with that damn ukulele right in my back.
The sound. Woo.
Dude, it was like your body getting set on fire. I had a ukulele print on my back for like 2 or 3 days after that. It was insane. But it was a lot of fun, man. It was we had worked a couple times together. I knew of him, but I didn't know him that well, and we just went out and trusted each other. And that's the beauty of wrestling to me. That's that high that you chase, is when you can go out there, you working with a guy, you put your trust in him, he puts his trust in you. It goes just the way it's supposed to. The fans love it. They understand it. Promoter loves it. Like, everybody wins.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen all the time. But yeah, dude, PWL, I love it. Also, shout out to APW, Joe Brody, and those guys there. I came in with them and just started working, doing some stuff, and the fans really took to me, and we were doing, I was their TV champ for a long time, and then I hurt my shoulder, which is still injured, and I dropped the title because I didn't know if I was going to be out for a while or what, and then I came back, and we started doing the Godfather Hill thing, and it just didn't land, I don't think, the way I intended it to, and I just decided to kind of walk away from APW, take some time to reevaluate some things and kind of where I want to go in my career. So, like, as far as on my end, no heat, nothing bad to say about those guys. The brewery shows they do are a lot of fun. We did one in Whitful, Virginia, at this minor league hockey stadium.
Nice.
I mean, it was like an arena. It had like the video screens and the loud. I mean, it was like being, like on a house show.
Nice.
To me. It was awesome. So, like I say, shout out to Joe Brody and APW and Jeff Paul and the guys at PWL. Hoping to get out there again. I'm not doing a lot right now because I'm actually in the process of moving, probably in December.
Okay.
So I'm kind of, here and there with bookings right now. But hopefully after the first of the year, they'll pick up a little bit. But to be quite honest with you, man, I mean, I think it's the twilight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm coming up on almost 25 years.
God bless.
And it might be time to take a step back. I'm still going to be training at School of Morton, starting hopefully after I move. They've got me training, doing their advanced class stuff there.
Nice.
Kenzie Page, which is the NWA Women's Champion, and of course AJ Kazana, who is one half of the US NWA Tag Team Champions right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be the head trainers. And then me, along with Roosevelt and a guy named Jeff Klepper, are going to be stepping in, doing like the advanced classes, kind of like, adding the spice to the meal that's already been prepared. If that makes sense.
No, it does. Well, and you mentioned 25 years. I don't think we ever got to the flip side of the coin. You told me, the good you had seen. Tell me some of the bad. What do you think isn't as good as it was in 2001? What?
Jesus. Um, if I'm being brutally honest, it's I don't want a blanket statement and say egos because I don't even think that's what it is.
Okay.
But it's just lack of respect.
Okay.
It's the younger. I'm not going to say everybody. I'm not going to lump everybody in. I'm not that guy. But some of the younger talent don't want to listen to the guys that have been there, especially guys like me who have never, as they say, drew a dime. I've never had a contract. I've never been on TV, the big leagues. So some of those guys just don't want to listen. And I'm not up here trying to ram advice down anybody's throat. But if you ask me to watch your match, I will. If you ask me to give you feedback, I will. But it's going to be honest. And if you don't want your feelings hurt, don't ask me.
Right.
Because I'm not the guy that's going to pat you on the back and say, "Oh, brother, it was great. Yeah, everything was." No, that's not me. And I don't expect that in return. I don't care if you're a year in the business, 5 years in the business. If you watch my match and you see something that you think I can improve on, let me know.
Yeah, we say we learn every day. I learn something new every day.
Well, you should. That's what they say. But a lot of these guys, they're just worried about, and it's nothing new that nobody else hasn't already said. They're worried about popping the boys in the back, and they got their little groups and their little cliques. But I know it's always been that way in wrestling. It's a business where you can work hard, you can do everything you want to try to achieve your goal, and you never will. But then this guy who comes up for whatever reason because he trained at such and such school, or his buddy knows this guy who's in WWE, he gets a rocket to the top.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, you can't come into the professional wrestling business thinking it's fair or thinking life's fair. No. You know what I mean? The biggest lie I think that we tell ourselves and the children and everybody is that hard work pays off. There's no guarantee that hard work is going to pay off. That's not why you do it.
Right on.
You do it because that is who you are, and that is the work ethic that you have. I'm up here. I've already done almost 150 matches this year.
Nice.
Even with my shoulder like it is, and it's been hurt for 3 months. But I'm not doing it because I think I'm going to get a contract. Bro, I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 in July. Nobody's going to sign me. I don't have the look. I don't have the body. I don't have the athletic ability. And I get that. That's not what this is about. People ask me all the time. It's like, why do you still do this? It's because I love it. It's because I have a passion for it. It's because it's all I've known since I was 19 years old.
Even at an independent level, there's still fun to be had. There's adventures to be had.
Absolutely.
We're having a great time.
That's one thing. Now, some of the guys I've had a chance to work with this year and the later part of last year are some matches that I've really, really enjoyed. And had I stepped away and stepped away, I'd have never had a chance to work with him. Just like one of my favorite guys, I've only worked with him twice now, but Amp Dominic. We've had 2 really solid matches, really fun matches. And I love getting the chance to make magic with that guy. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, do you think what you said about the egos and not listening to feedback, do you think there's a correlation there with what you said earlier about there's not as much hazing? There's it's a lighter atmosphere in the locker room. Do you think there's any correlation there? Do you think that hazing made those guys respect the business more? Or no?
Honestly, I mean, if you're doing it for that tough love reason, I can understand that. But if you're being a dick just to be a dick,
just to be a psycho, right?
Then yeah, no. But I will say this, and I've said on other podcasts, I'm not going to get heat for it. And if I do at this point, who cares? Wrestling is not made and cut out for everybody.
Right.
It's just not. Everybody's not meant to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
There's probably people that argue that I shouldn't be a professional wrestler, and who knows? They might be right. But when I got in, I was 19 years old. I was 5 foot, 7, maybe 125, 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have athletic ability like Rey Mysterio. So I was the guy they used as the test dummy. I was the one they threw around and power bombed, and I took all the beatings. I was like Spike Dudley in a way.
Right on.
And I had so many people when I first started because I would be hurting all the time. And I wasn't a physical kid, dude. When I was in high school, I liked Harry Potter. I was a little nerdy kid, and I didn't do sports. This was the most physical thing I'd ever done. And I just convinced myself that no matter how bad it hurt, I was going to keep doing it because everybody said I couldn't do it. I was going to prove them wrong.
Hell yeah.
And I did. And after a while, I earned that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem. These guys aren't earning respect. They're coming in here, and just because they're athletic or they're talented or they're good looking, and some guy on a blog gives them this like 5-star review,
Right.
then they think they're better than everybody else.
Right.
You know, like yes, I'm not going to say it's easy to pop a crowd, but there are easy ways to pop a crowd.
Right.
There are easy ways to get heat. But if you do it properly, you will get the right kind of pop, the right kind of heat. You'll get a sustained appreciation for the match.
Right.
It's not just like fireworks where everybody's sitting there, nothing's going on. One move happens and then they sit there and they sit there and then, you know what I mean? Like that's not, to me, that's not wrestling. That's not working.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think that a lot of people, because you see it online all the time and in group chats and then talking to people in cars, you know, because people say stuff when they're riding in a car they ain't going to say in person to somebody else.
Right
and that's not part of business. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody talks shit about everybody. If you say you don't, you're a liar.
Right.
100%. Whoever's not in the car gets fucking buried. Everybody knows that. Whether they're your best friend, and then you get to the show and they shake your hand, hey buddy, good to see you, and you know they just spent the last 2 hours riding the car burying your ass. You know it.
Isn't it like high school?
It's horrible. It's worse than high school. That I will say that if you are worried in this business, if you're worried about people liking you, everybody liking you, get out, because it ain't gonna happen. You can be the nicest guy in the world, and for whatever reason, people ain't gonna like you. Or you can be the biggest jerk asshole, and because of who you are or your pedigree or who trained you or the potential you have of making it, people will like you and kiss your ass. Yep. Everybody knows that. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are probably afraid to say it. I'm not. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
But it's not fair. Life's not fair. Who cares? Worry about you. Put your head down. Work hard. Take care of your own self. You know, there's guys that I see all the time that they do things for people that person would never do for them.
Right.
And I just don't get it. You know, it's like, oh, hey, share this post for me, guys. Please. Thanks. Da-da-da. And I'm like, when's the last time you shared anybody's post but your own?
Yeah.
When's the last time you reached out to a promoter and said, hey, this kid's a good hand if you need somebody on your show? But yet you're all up in this kid's inbox. Hey, bro, help me get booked on a show. Right. Like I just, that's the part that's like, it's so fake. It's so fucking fake. That's one thing I will say. This brotherhood, supposed brotherhood in wrestling, when I first started, it was a lot more prevalent than it is now.
Okay.
A lot of it's just, you know, it's who you know. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. And honestly. Like to get anywhere it's probably entertainment in general. I'm sure it's not just wrestling.
Right. I say that on the show all the time too. It's not just going on in wrestling. It's going on in basketball, rock and roll, movies. Yeah. It's just the way
and look, I don't want nobody to think I'm whining and crying about it's everybody else's fault because I ain't further in my career. Or I didn't do no. Anything I've ever done to shoot myself in the foot or put my foot in my mouth or say the wrong thing or whatever I've done is 100% on me. And I'll take accountability for it. I am self-aware, 100% self-aware. I'm sure there's promoters right now that still won't touch me because of things I've done and said in my past.
Hey.
And that's their journey. That's I can't do anything about that.
At the same time, I've learned it's true. You never say never in this business. I've seen some things happen lately I never thought in a million years, and here it was happening right in front of my eyes. So,
yep.
It's wild, man. You was talking about reactions, about, you want the right reaction. You don't want just the firework pop and everything. What do you think your favorite reaction, whether it was a boo or a cheer, in almost 25 years, what's Sean Cruz's favorite reaction to his match?
God, man, it's almost 25 years. Well, I can't think of a particular one, but my absolute favorite is when I go somewhere new and I'm the heel.
Okay.
And I come out and there's a huge pop. right? They're cheering, they're screaming, they're like, yeah, we like this guy. And then it's my job to turn that around.
Mm-hmm.
So having that ability to do that is something I'm very proud of.
Hell yeah.
And I've done it multiple times. Hell, I just did it last weekend, 2 weekends ago at Gouge Wrestling, which is Gouge is one of my absolute favorite places to wrestle. It's grappling, was it Gimmicks Only Underground Grappling Entertainment is what it stands for. Basically, it's heavy gimmick based. It's a company and a show that doesn't take itself too seriously. They do mostly bar shows, like breweries, outside shows.
Nice.
And it's just fun. It's just fun. And it really, anytime that I start getting bogged down on the grind all the time, wrestling and doing these shows, and everybody's wanting to be serious, I go there because I want to enjoy myself. And that crowd really appreciates what we do. They're not wrestling fans, most of them. They're like college kids and people that just want to go and have a drink and be entertained and have a good time.
Hell yeah.
And they are more appreciative than any wrestling fan I've ever been in front of.
Oh.
And I don't get me wrong, without the fans, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, but there is nobody that hates professional wrestling more than a professional wrestling fan.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Those guys that sit like this the entire show, like, impress me. Why are you even here? Why did you pay for a ticket?
I don't get that. I was that hardcore nerd wrestling fan, and I went to have fun.
Exactly.
You know, like, I knew damn well, some of the matches weren't up to par, but I was playing right along. Take me through that scenario this past weekend, because I used to be that wrestling fan. You're the bad guy, but hey, I'm the cool wrestling fan, so I'm going to cheer you. So you're trying to turn me against you, but man, it was hard to do because, I want to make myself part of the show too. So walk me through that scenario.
Oh, that's the worst. God,
I know. And
I do have a funny story I could tell you about a guy I almost got in a fist fight with.
Hell yeah. We'll have that
same situation. So basically, with this particular situation, I came out, they were cheering. I remember who it was, but I picked somebody in the crowd. I'll look at them and I'll say something like, yeah, that's right, I cheer for me too. Mm-hmm. Whatever, I would say something to get them to be like, well, I don't want to cheer for that guy. He's full of himself.
Right on.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or my favorite what I'll do is my glasses routine, and it gets over everywhere I go, especially doing it in a new place if I'm a heel. So I'll go out, I'll do my cocky stuff, I'll get in the ring, I'll already pick a kid out, I'll get down, I'll walk over to him, I'll take my glasses off, my shades, and I'll say, hey, do you want my shades? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, put your hands by your side. I'll put them on their face like that. The last second, snatch it off and just laugh at them. Put a big L on my, hey, you moron, you loser. You thought I was going to give you my glasses. And that turns the crowd faster than anything.
For sure.
Yeah, that usually works for me. Well, I actually had an incident with Amp Dominic at the show Saturday. So on the way, even with the promo I did, I was walking in thinking I was the heel and he was the babyface.
Okay.
Right for the curtain, I found out it's completely opposite. So he comes out to thunderous applause and cheers.
Okay.
And I'm standing in Gorilla and I go, all right, if I come out and they boo me, we're switching this right now on the fly. I'll just tell them when we get in the ring. And as soon as I came out, boom, they exploded. Like, cheers. Mm-hmm. And then I started, I was in the ring yelling out, like, how's everybody doing? And this one guy says, you can hear him on tape. It's hilarious. He said, well, I was doing great till he come out here. And I was like, oh, okay. So they don't like Amp. This is going to be easy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man, when you can kind of manipulate or dictate how it's supposed to go. But you always have that one fan, like you said.
Making the show about himself.
I was at a show. I'll be nice because I like the promoter and I like the promotion. I won't mention it.
Okay.
But let's just say I was at a show in North Carolina and there was a gentleman there. I'll use that term loosely. Mm-hmm. That he thinks he's part of the show. He's got his own Instagram. He promotes himself, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I hate it.
And he cheers for the heels and boos the babies intentionally.
Okay.
And I came out and he was just all over me. And I was supposed to be, so I came out as the heel. It's my first time here. I get on the mic. I'm running, doing my spiel. I'm like, there ain't nobody in the locker room. It's got the balls to step to me, da-da-da-da-da. So the guy who comes out is a white meat babyface.
Okay.
And this dude starts screaming, oh, my God, anybody but him, anybody but him. And he's been doing this all night. And the crowd is just, like, done with him. You can tell they're just fed up, ready to go home. And so the whole match we had planned was it was like based on the fact that they were going to cheer this kid and get behind him as a baby.
Right on.
And he did everything to kill that. And he just kept on and kept on and kept on. And he was saying stuff like that talking about me, that this is what your old gym teacher looks like when he's still trying to relive his glory days. Jesus. Blah, blah, blah. And just talking about how old I was and all this stuff. And grandpa this. I get it all the time. Yeah. And I don't know why, but I absolutely snapped on this dude. I rolled out of the ring and got right in his face, basically told him that he needed to shut up and sit down and let people enjoy the show. Hell blah, yeah. blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, oh, my God. I got right in his – so I won the match, rolled out, got in his face again, and there was a chair between us. Okay. And he said, you're lucky there's a chair between us. I took that chair and threw it into the wall. Nice. And got right in his face. And I was like, what now? And he goes – I looked down, and he has a baby with him sitting on the floor in like a little carrier. Okay. And he goes, well, you're lucky my baby's – I got my baby with me. And I looked at him, and I said, F your baby. Good. Like, I don't know, dude. I was on one that night. And I tried everything to get him to meet me outside. I get it. He wouldn't. But then the funny thing is, about 3 weeks to a month later, I was on another show in the same town. I was the heel, and he was acting like he should. Oh, yeah? So I don't know if there was just something up his butt that night too. But, yeah, I've had a couple instances where I've kind of – that's one thing I will say that's hurt my career a lot is my temper, my short fuse, my anger. Because I'm very passionate about what I do. I get it. And if I feel like somebody's stepping over a line, it's hard for me to just like ignore it and go on. And the guys who make it in this industry, especially, well, any entertainment industry, I think, are the ones that can just let stuff roll off their back and keep going. You know what I mean? And I've just never been that guy. It's not who I am. Like, I can't, it's real hard for me to hold my tongue. Well, and I can relate. Not as bad as I used to be, though. I will say that. Like, if anybody's watching this and they're thinking about, man, I shouldn't book that guy. He's got anger issues. No. Anybody who's wrestled with me in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I'm talking like way earlier in my career. I've grown a lot and matured a lot through wrestling and life as well. No, like I say, I can relate. I'll be 41 at the end of the month, and I used to be that fan you were talking about, making the show about myself. But now that I'm in the business, I tell you what really pisses me off. It's guys like Mr. Instagram guys, the podcast people, this and that wants to see what can wrestling do for me, not what can I do for wrestling. It's driving me crazy recently. Are you seeing it in North Carolina and different places? I've seen it in some different places. I've not, honestly, other than that one incident I told you, I've not really had anything that comes to mind. And even those guys, man, if you want to be a part of the show and then come over to my table later and be like, hey, man, that was fun working with you, or buy something from me, like support me, support what we do. Right. But like you said, if you're just out for yourself and you're trying to get followers and stuff, and you're trying to prove and step up that you're bigger and badder than a wrestler, he's lucky he didn't get punched in the face. I don't say that because I'm some kind of Billy Badass, although I have gotten in quite a few fights in the wrestling business with fans, and which now if they come across the rail, if they come across the rail, it's fair game. And that's not because we want to hurt anybody, but we've got to protect the business. You can't set that precedent that it's okay to come across that rail or put your hands on wrestlers. That's why every time they do before a show starts, we got some rules. Don't throw anything in the ring. Don't put your hands on the wrestlers. It's for everybody's sake. Yeah.
And even if they're not jumping the guardrail, don't make a mockery of my sport that I'm in constantly. I'm in 24/7. You know, you're just here for a night. Don't. And again, I don't take bumps, but I'm in this. I'm editing every day. I'm doing this podcast. I'm working on wrestling every day. So, yeah, don't make a mockery. Let's talk about the good fans because we do have fan questions. So, you ready for some fan questions, Sean P?
Absolutely, man. I love the fan questions.
Let's get it. We got Tabby Ray writing in. What has been.
Ha
Okay, sounds like you might know. Okay. What has been his hardest obstacle to overcome? The hardest obstacle.
Oh, myself.
Yeah.
My own self-doubt. Matter of fact, between me and you, just being honest, I'm struggling with that a little bit today, actually. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like things start going in a positive direction, and then you get that voice in the back of your head. Every time something starts positive, you know it's coming right behind it, something negative. And it's just one of those things where, like, I'm my own worst critic, you know?
Right on.
It's like I'll have a match, and it feels good. It feels good when I'm in it. The crowd seems to be into it. Even the promoter is really happy about it. They'll send me a message the next day on Facebook, and great. I watch it back, and I just want to throw up because I'm like, that was horrible on my part, not the other guy. Like, I was sluggish. I didn't get up fast enough for this. This was not, which I'm not a babyface. I can babyface when need to be, when I have a really good heel.
Right.
But I'm a heel, and I just don't have that babyface fire, that energy that a real babyface has. And sometimes, like on a comeback, I'll notice that it's just slow. It's little stuff like that. Like but it's not as bad as it used to be. Like, man, used to I'd go on like an 8-hour wrestling trip, and the match would be literally 99.9% great, but that 1.1% is all I would dwell on for the next week.
I get it.
It's like I'm a perfectionist that's never going to be perfect. And that's like a living hell sometimes, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
You want to try so hard to I don't know, prove something to yourself, to other people, to whatever. You know, like I was just talking to my girlfriend today about, like, I don't want to be that guy that just is hanging around.
Right on.
Like, I want people to be honest with me. If I go out there and I don't look and I don't perform the way I did 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, like, tell me. I'll step aside,
right, so
somebody else can take that spot.
You want to feel like you have some worth. I get it. Believe me.
Yeah. I want to feel like I still got something to give this business. And I do, not necessarily in the ring, but, you know, training and whatever else I can do. I'm actually thinking about doing my own podcast.
I think you should, Sean, and I'll tell you why. You start doing these little videos on Facebook here and there, inspirational videos. And, man, I don't know how you did it, Sean, but you caught me on the right day last week. I think it was last week. In the video, you were talking about you don't get what you want, but you get what you need, okay? On that day, I found out something I've been working on for months, and it's supposed to happen next month. Well, now it ain't happening. And I was so mad, and I was so frustrated. Why did I work so hard for this and do this and do this? And I respect you. I've watched you work. I know enough to where I respect you as a man and what you say. And when you said that, I said, okay, let's just see how things play out. I'm not going to throw one of my bitch fits. Let's just sit back. It hasn't played out yet. It hasn't turned positive just yet. Little things, not as great as what I wanted it to be, but I got a little constellation prize. But I did. I think you can offer something in that regard. I think you can still go in the ring, but I did. I wanted to thank you on that. I think you definitely should start up your own podcast. And if you need help, I'll be happy to help you.
Man, that sounds great. And thank you. I'm really glad that helped you. It's weird. I just have thoughts some days, and I feel like somebody needs to hear this. Sometimes it's me. It's I need to tell myself these things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, that was the one that was really important to me because it helped me a lot to get through a really rough situation I just dealt with this past year. And it's sometimes you do get what you want, but you're not ready for it or you don't deserve it yet.
Right on.
And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've had to learn. And so now when a similar opportunity arises, you don't make the same mistakes. That's the one thing I don't think I've ever learned from my mistakes. I just keep making the same ones.
Okay.
And I think that's what's held me back in life, and especially in the sport of professional wrestling. But it's never too late to grow and learn. And I just want people to know, like I said, what not to do.
Yeah.
Like when I see these guys that, I look up, like I've got a lot of guys that say I'm like a mentor to them. And I don't ever talk about myself that way. I don't want to put myself over. If they want to say that, cool.
Right.
But when I see them do or say something online, I'll inbox them in a heartbeat. It's like, hey, man, you might want to take that down.
Right on.
Hey, man, you might want to not piggyback on what this dude's saying or co-sign on what he's saying, because it's not the right way. You think it is, but it's not. Trust me.
Good. Somebody's got to look out. I'm glad. And we're all in this together, man. Whether, you might not like the guy, whatever. We're all in this together. It helped
Yeah.
me out, and I'm sure you're helping others out.
Well, I appreciate it. I need to get to doing them more daily. I'm so busy lately, man. It's crazy with everything going on. And, I actually got a job because just for the holidays, because we're moving and I'm trying to save some money up to facilitate that. Matter of fact, we're actually looking to move towards the like Charlotte area around like Lake Norman in North Carolina. So if anybody watching this knows any places out there or anything, hey, let me know.
Leave it in the comments.
Yeah, leave it in the comments, please. But yeah, I grew up in this area we're in now. Me and my girlfriend both did, actually, and we're just ready to move on, just start new somewhere else.
Good. I wish you luck with that.
I appreciate it.
And we do have another one for you, and this is a long one. This is comments, questions. There's all kinds of stuff for you in this one, so we'll just get to it. The great Grace Duncan Harris, film extraordinaire.
Grace.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She's the best.
She is.
I think you'll like this first line. Sean Cruz is one of my favorites. Grace has seen a lot of wrestlers, so kudos.
Yes.
It is about time he has landed on WrestleRoni. I have loved to hate him at shows and loved to cheer for him at shows. All right, first question. There's a few here. Who has been his toughest opponent?
Toughest. Man, that's as far as like hardest hitting, or like when you get done with the match, you feel like you just went through a car accident. Like, what do you mean by toughest exactly?
Well, only Grace knows, so we're going to have to say hardest hitting, and you feel it the next day.
Okay, so that would easily be Roosevelt or Victor Andrews.
Okay.
I'll shoot you the link if you haven't already seen it. We did a match where it was a 60-minute Ironman match in an empty arena earlier this year. And this the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, physically, mentally, emotionally. And it was something else. Like was it 3-4 days after that? Yeah, I was still hurting 3-4 days after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll shoot you that link if you want me to. And it was a hell of a match too. We told such a great emotional story.
Please do shoot that to me.
I will. And just a quick background on that. So me and Roosevelt used to absolutely hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
We came from different backgrounds. He was the guy that I didn't think belonged in the business. He was disrespectful, in my opinion. And it was a lot of what he said this coming through somebody else. Find out it was a lot of it was bullshit. So one day we were on a show together. I just walked up to him and I put my arms out and I was like, look, whatever happened in the past is in the past. We're going to bury it. And since that day, me and him have become, so close.
Good.
And I actually just got to watch him wrestle Austin Aries on that same show for Square Circle Champions, which was incredible.
Hell yeah.
But that dude, man, it ain't a gimmick. He hits like a Mack truck, and he keeps coming. Like, this cardio is unmatched.
Yeah.
Hell, sometimes he don't even break a sweat.
I'm sure being in there for an hour, he was sweating.
Yeah, he was, but that's because it was about 100 degrees in that building.
Jeez.
So yeah, I'll shoot you the link. It was like a religious experience, almost like an exorcism for me.
I can imagine. I respect the hell out of it, because 100 degrees for an hour, I know what it's like being in that ring for 3 minutes doing the bare minimum. I can imagine. So, props. Grace has got a lot of questions here.
Oh, that's cool. Bring them on.
Who are your wrestling influences? It's almost like she's my co-host. She should be doing this show.
Right. Well, I got to say, growing up, I watched like Hogan, Warrior, and those guys. I was a Warrior guy. just because he was flashy in the paint and he just got my attention. But really, I'd have to say Shawn Michaels, of course, like a lot of guys, is a big one. I just loved everything about him, especially him being a smaller guy in the land of giants. I mean, that was great. God, who else? Dean Malenko. Dean Malenko is a huge influence to my wrestling style. I wish I was half the wrestler he was. Gosh. Yeah, I said that's the cruiserweights too in WCW. That's when that came like at the end of the 90s. That's when I thought like, hey, maybe I can do this.
Okay.
Because I was not that kid that grew up and was like, I want to be a wrestler when I grow up. And hell no, like I was way too small. But when I saw the guys like Malenko, Jericho, Psychosis, La Parka, like all these Juventud, those type guys, Billy Kidman, Jericho, which to me, it's a hot take, but I think Chris Jericho is the greatest wrestler of all time, and only because he's reinvented himself so many times.
Right on.
Always been on top every single time.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that. But yeah, I guess those would probably be the biggest ones.
I love it. But Shawn Michaels was my first favorite wrestler, and he was a bad guy. It was right when he threw Jannetty through the barbershop window. I said, that's my dude. Yes.
Yeah, and of course, later on, I loved watching Austin and The Rock and those guys. Right. Kurt Angle, who I think is one of the most underrated wrestlers in the world, especially to come from the world of Olympic wrestling and get the entertainment aspect of what we do so quick.
Yeah.
And be so good at it.
Yeah.
And I'll even drop a guy's name that a lot of people won't, Chris Benoit. To me, still one of the hardest hitting, physical, like you believed everything he did in the ring.
Yep.
That's what wrestling should be to me. Anybody that I wrestle, I always tell them, look, you're going to feel like you've been in a fight.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm going to bruise you or bust your lip or anything like that, but when I'm in the ring, I'm rough. And that's the way it should be.
Right.
I don't like choreographed wrestling. I'll say that right now.
Well, hey, I think you're entitled to your say.
Yeah.
She still has some more here. A tougher question. He wrestled Pony Johnson at a PWL event in Mullins, West Virginia. We're going to get a little bit behind the curtain with this one, I think. In Mullins, West Virginia, the crowd wasn't familiar with either of them, so it was difficult to get a fan reaction. What can be done during a match like that to get a dead crowd into the match? I know if the people had seen him before, they definitely would have been into it. And then she's got one more after that. So, I guess you're going to give Grace a seminar here.
Yeah, no worries. So the story behind that one was I ended up doing 2 matches that day. One was an hour down the road, and I believe it was Oak Hill, West Virginia. And it was for a wedding. It was really cool because the bride's family were from Alaska, and they had never seen professional wrestling like live up close.
Okay.
So I ended up working Aaron West, who we talked about earlier, in the first match. And so our match was the first any of them have ever seen professional wrestling live. And they absolutely loved it. They ate it up. They were into it the whole time. It was great. So I did that show. It was outside in 100 and something degree weather, at least high 90s. I mean, it was middle of summer. It was fucking brutal. And so we went out, wrestled 15 minutes there. I literally jumped in the car in my gear, drove an hour to Mullins, got out of the car. Now, mind you, all of this, I'm, once again, just like with Amp, I'm thinking, okay, I'm the baby face and he's going to be the heel, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. And I get there because he's a bigger guy than me, and I'm like, okay, cool. I love the big guy, little guy, baby face heel match. Because all I'm going to do is give you a big bump off the top rope at the end of the comeback, huge pop, the whole story. I'm just going to be trying to get you off your feet the whole time. Easy. Well, I get there, go up there to him, and hey, brother and Pony, nice to meet you. We're talking about Pony Johnson. Just a quick break. One of the best, nicest, most genuine dudes I've ever met in my entire life, especially in the business of professional wrestling.
Right.
He's amazing. Family dude, loves God, like all that. You cannot not like Pony Johnson.
Right.
So I met him, shook his hand, and I was like, okay, so I had this idea, and he goes, well, brother, he's like, I'm the babyface. And I was like, okay, so mind you, this was in the middle of the show.
Okay.
And our match was like 10 minutes after I got there.
Okay.
So I literally talked to him for 10 minutes. And I'm old school. He's old school. He was trained by George South.
Nice.
So he's like, okay, boys, we'll just call it out there. So we did. We went out there, wrestled 15 minutes. It was hot in that place too. We called it out there. I did whatever I could try to do to get heat. Grace is right. That crowd was weird. They weren't reacting to much. There was one spot where he chopped me on the outside, and he chops hard. And he chopped me, and so I sold away from him, and I saw a chair. So I did like a running flip into the chair after he chopped me, just to kind of Shawn Michaels oversell it. And the crowd laughed about that. They thought that was funny. I've got that link too if you want me to shoot it to you, just so you can see it and see what you think maybe we could have done different.
What do I
I don't know if he didn't do enough to get over as a baby, and I'm not saying anything about him, or I didn't do enough to get the crowd to hate me. I don't know. It was definitely very weird. The match itself was pretty solid, especially because we just met and we were calling everything on the fly. I was happy with it. He was happy with it, and he's become a really good friend of mine because of that. So even if the fans weren't into it that night, I mean, it still had a positive result.
Hell yeah.
And he's been back to PWL, and we've got him at APW. And everybody loves Pony.
Hell yeah. And you know what? I got to kind of call Grace on something here. I think her being a West Virginia fan, she might be a tad bit spoiled because there's weird crowds out there. I watch them in Pennsylvania, especially parts of Pennsylvania. Like you said, these people just go to shows just to sit on their hands. It don't make... I mean, I guess if they're paying their ticket, it's their right. But there's weird crowds out there. You're just going to have that sometimes.
You are. Yeah. And then sometimes, like I say, you got to switch. If they're not buying you as the heel or buying him as the baby, sometimes if you switch, they'll buy it. So it just happens.
Can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, Sean, I have kept you for over an hour. I appreciate the hell out of you. Usually in the go home segment of the show here, I give the guests the chance to promote your merch, any matches you got coming up, your socials, anything you want to put out there. If you want to give up-and-coming wrestlers advice, if there's something you need to get off your chest, whatever you want to put out into the ether, my platform's your platform. You have at it, sir.
I appreciate it, man. Let's see. This weekend, I'm going to be in Hendersonville, North Carolina on Friday for School of Morton. And then Saturday, I'm making my return to FWE in Cary, North Carolina against Con O'Kelly. That's going to be a fun one. Other than that, man, I'm on the Facebook. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X. It's just search Sean Cruz. You'll find me. Merch-wise, I always have T-shirts for sale. I don't have like a store, but I'll periodically like post the stuff that I have for sale. Also for wrestlers that are actually watching, my girlfriend actually makes gear and merchandise, T-shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you're looking for somebody to make some stuff, the Facebook page is called Keeping Tabs on it.
Okay.
Yep. So check that out if you get a chance. And man, just thanks to everybody for supporting what we do. Because without the fans, like we wouldn't be able to do what we do and what I love to do and what I feel like I was put on this earth to do. You know. And anybody who wants to be a wrestler, all I can say is just be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself and say, is this really something that I'm willing to put what it takes into to get the results that I'm looking for? Because if you say you want to make it, you want a contract, there's things you have to do. There's things you have to go to the gym. You have to eat right. You have to practice your promos. You have to train at a reputable training school. That's another thing. That's the one thing, and I've said it before, and I love my trainer to death. He's one of my best friends, but he was not a name.
Right.
If I could go back and do it again when I was 19, I would have gone to Ricky Morton or George South or Tom Pritchard or any of those guys with that name.
Right.
Because not only are you going to get the absolute best knowledge, of course, but that name goes a long way.
Right.
You know, it does. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So my path has been a little bit harder because I didn't have that behind me. And if you're not willing to spend the money it takes to go to a reputable wrestling school with a name on it, you don't deserve to be in the business anyway. Because this is not, you have to spend money to make money.
Right.
That's the way I see it. And you are a small business as a professional wrestler. So you are going to have to spend money on yourself, your craft, your merchandise, your 8x10s, like all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, it's just how it is. It's like any other business, and treat it as a business. That's another thing too. treat wrestling as a business. There's so many things you can do to save money. I mean, riding cars with the other guys that are on the show, split gas, split a hotel room. You know how many hotel rooms I've slept on the floor? Because there was like six of us in a room together. You know what I mean? But people won't do that anymore. It's like they're too good for it. And then when a promoter won't pay you $300 to go 3 states away just because of the distance, people don't know you. You're not going to draw $300 for that promoter.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just have to be realistic. And I honestly think in the wrestling business and in life in general, I just don't think people are realistic anymore. I mean, we're living in a world where you can get famous on OnlyFans or TikTok. And while this guy has to go bust his butt working on the dock 40 hours a week and barely make it. You know what I mean? And even in wrestling, a lot of promoters look at your social media following.
Right.
Because that's going to bring, just like Logan Paul, and not taking anything away from him or his athleticism, you know why they were interested in him. He has 7 million followers on whatever, Instagram or social media. So now the fact that he actually takes it seriously and is athletic and works out, it reminds me a lot of The Miz.
Right.
The Miz was the guy that I couldn't stand because I didn't feel like he earned it and deserved it. He came from the real world.
Right.
But he earned his place. Just like I feel like Logan Paul is. But yeah, it's all important. You know, you do have to have, and that's one thing that a lot of, I don't know about like these reputable schools, because like I said, I didn't go to one, but the place that I went through, that we didn't know about social media in 2001.
Right.
So I'm not even sure if that's part of what they're teaching, but they should.
It should be.
You got to know how to market yourself. You know, used to get on shows, it was like you just ride, which you still can, ride with somebody, offer to help out, stuff like that can also get you used.
Right.
But now it's like these companies want resumes. You know, like a real job, like you with a whole resume and your match links and this and that, and it's like, wow.
Well,
things have definitely changed. I'll say that.
And I've played promoter. I ran a couple shows, and I'll say from the promoter's point of view, I would get messages, and of course I want to see your work if I've never heard of you.
Of course.
But I would have guys just straight up send videos. Not even, hey, I would like a job. Just boom, here's a video. Nothing personal. So, and that's where you said, you know, is it being? I hope it is being taught in training schools. But at the same time, it's kind of a common sense thing. If you were raised right, say, hello, sir, I would like to work for your promotion. Here's my match. There'd be people to hit me up, but there's no match footage to speak of. So there's a lot of like real life stuff you got to take into wrestling too.
Yeah, I've heard promoters say people will send them comments or messages and be like, y'all got any more bookings, or y'all hiring wrestlers, or like, and not even spelling it right too. It's like, man, like proofread.
Oh, you know, I got to let the spelling and grammar slide because it's rough looking at some of these posts on Facebook from successful people too. So
yeah.
Oh, man, that's a whole nother podcast. I've already kept you too long, Sean. Any final words for the public before I let you go, sir?
Man, just be good to each other. Like, don't be good to yourself too, man. I know that's one thing I struggle with sometimes. Like, just because you had a bad hour doesn't mean you had a bad day.
Nice.
You know?
I like it. Hell yeah, man. It honestly has. It's been an honor and a privilege. Hope to have you back on in the future. But at the same time, I think you should go start your own podcast. But if you don't get around to it, we'll get you back on here if that's something you'd be interested in.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. I'll ask you to hang on the line if you don't mind, Sean. But
sure.
To the listeners, this is why we do it. Folks out here living their dreams, putting the work in, almost 25 years. So that's why I'm telling you, go out there, treat each other with kindness and respect. Don't take no shit from nobody. Pursue your dreams. Do what's best for you. And don't forget, September 28th, Morgantown, Buzz Fest. RSW is coming back. It's 2 days before Spooky Lou's birthday, so if you want to come up and buy me a drink, I won't say no. I promise you. Hope to see you there. It's been another wonderful episode. Can't thank y'all enough. Still doing great. We love you. We're out of here.